Of today's instructional video is to walk you through a model introduction paragraph for the Anglo-Saxon Exile essay that I presented this week. This is an essay that we are going to do together, and you are more than welcome to copy exactly what I do in this video, but you will have to retype it in the doc that I've provided to you on the classroom assignment today. Yesterday, I had you work on looking for textual evidence from the poems The Wife's Lament and The Wanderer that support the assessment you made of their mental and emotional states. And I presented you with this essay prompt. In a 4-paragraph essay, explain the impact that exile by force can have on a person's mental and emotional health. In your writing, make reference to Kevin Johnson's USA Today article and include textual evidence from The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament. I want to start by just reviewing the purpose of an introduction paragraph, or its goal. It's to introduce the topic, which makes enough sense, and give enough information about it in order to enable the reader to understand the significance of what you're going to do in the body of this essay. It will clearly articulate both the context and the purpose of this writing. I created a checklist for the introduction paragraph that I'm going to model for you and that you can imitate for this actual assignment. And I color-coded it, and the reason for that is because I think many students struggle at times to understand that paragraphs are just working parts and there are components to it. It's not just one big mass or blob of words. So I kind of want to walk through the suggested checklist for this essay's introduction paragraph. And then what I'm going to do is elaborate and provide you let you see in real time how I can kind of fill in and meet those different requirements on the checklist as it relates to this specific essay prompt. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do in an introduction paragraph is restate the task. In other words, what is it asking the essay writer to do? And you want to do that in a declarative sentence. You're not going to ask a rhetorical question. By junior year, will a lot of times for literary analysis type essays just say, we're not going to worry about a hook. While they do have a place in writing and can be effective, students often get so hung up on what the best hook can be that they don't finish an essay. And so it's not always the most practical thing to invest all your time and energy in a hook. While they can be very effective, there's something that I would say to put later on as the cherry on top of the essay, okay? Instead of saying, I can't start this thing, I can't think of a hook. So that's why I do not have that listed as the first thing on your list. Number 2, I'm going to recommend putting 2 to 3 sentences of important background information or key terms relevant to the essay. In this case, I need to talk about what the heck exile is, and you do have a definition that you recorded in your notes on those specific dates in Google Classroom that you can go back and refer to. And you also need to give some overview of Kevin Johnson's solitary confinement article that we read. Now, you'll note in the essay prompt, if I go back to it, I do not say that you have to use evidence from this article in your essay. It is, however, serving as the inspiration or catalyst for our analysis of The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament. Step 3. You need some kind of transition sentence to take me to the thesis. In this case, I need to now bring up the fact that the Exeter book contains some Anglo-Saxon poems that also dealt with the idea of exile by force and the negative effect it has on one's mental and emotional health. And then lastly, we provide our thesis statement through the form of a declarative sentence. This is where you're going to specifically articulate what you're going to write about and prove in this essay. And that's where we're going to, and we'll see. I'm going to take you through all these steps, and we'll go from there. Okay. So the first element of the introduction paragraph says, restate the task. What is it asking the essay writer to do? I'm going to see this information contained in the first line of the prompt. It says, in a 4-paragraph essay, explain the impact that exile by force can have on a person's mental and emotional health. Okay, it's telling me I have to explain that. It's very clear from what we've discussed in class, through the reading of the USA Today article, as well as both poems that featured exile by force at least, that it has a damaging effect. So I'm going to say that in a declarative sentence. And I have that example at the bottom here. Exile, especially when it is by force, has a damaging effect on a person's mental and emotional health. Okay. Step 2. of an introduction paragraph says include 2 to 3 sentences of important background or key information key terms relevant to the essay. For this particular essay prompt, I need to define exile, and I need to give some kind of overview of Kevin Johnson's solitary confinement article, because as I noted, that's kind of serving as the inspiration for us to connect this to the older texts. So I do that in two sections here. Well, I have 2 sections for 2 parts to meeting this second section of the intro. And I do it in 2 to 3 sentences. So let's look at the first part. I do need to define exile. I use the sentence, in simple terms, exile can be defined as isolation or separation from community. Okay, fair enough. That's from that classwork that you did on those other dates in September, depending on your cohort. I also need to give some context or overview of that article. So I did that in 2 sentences. Here's what it sounds like. In his investigative report on the impact of solitary confinement on those in the prison system, USA Today writer Kevin Johnson shares the story of Sylvester Segovia, who has spent more than 20 years, in administrative segregation. That was another term for solitary confinement from the report, while incarcerated. Segovia's story, along with many similar cases, have caused many lawmakers, it sounds a little repetitive there, I'm going to take that many out, has caused some lawmakers and even members of the Supreme Court to condemn the use of this modern form of exile. Okay, as you see, writing's always fluid and a work in progress. All right, this contains some really sophisticated sentence structure and terms. You might not be familiar with all of them. You can put this in your own words or something like it instead, but I want you to see sentences that have complex syntax, and that's the order of the words in it. I want you to see sentences that have introductory phrases and, complex sentence structures so that you can imitate them. I think we learn by seeing. So if you're looking at that and saying, Ms. Kirsten, I could never write that on my own. That may be true. And if for the purposes of, this essay, you just want to imitate it and copy it, that's okay. But I think the more you see it, the more you're more likely to understand how it works and then can imitate it when you are ready to write in your own words, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, back to my list. So I just did the screen part. Step 3 says I need a transition sentence to my thesis. Okay. So in this case, I need to connect now what I've brought up about exile by force and this article on solitary confinement to what we've been studying in class and what the rest of the prompt asks me to include evidence from, and that's Anglo-Saxon poetry. So I, in blue here, have created a sentence that now takes me from the damage of exile force to the fact that I'm going to be giving examples from these old poems from British literature. So here's my model sentence. The damage that exile by force has on a person's mental health can be seen even in some of British literature's oldest texts, including the Anglo-Saxon poems contained in the Exeter book. Okay, I need a period after that sentence. There we go. I don't want to tell. Oh, I didn't mean to do what I just did. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we just did step 3, and now we're going to do step 4. A thesis statement that appears in the form of a declarative sentence. Again, here's my prompt again. I have to explain the impact that exile by force can have on a person's mental and emotional health. I need to make reference to Johnson's USA Today article. I did that. And I need textual evidence from The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament. Therefore, this final sentence works well. It's in orange. An analysis of The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament, poetry titles are in quotation marks, the analysis clearly shows how exile by force causes psychological damage to the mental and emotional health of, I'm going to say both speakers. I'm going to change up my thing. I like that. That's solid. Okay. This right here is what this paragraph looks like. Change this word that I just changed before. I changed this too before. This shows you how these are all working parts of a larger introduction paragraph. And it's doing all of the things I said should happen in this checklist. When I take the color coordination away, you're like, I just see a bunch of words, and I'm going to be like, no, these are working parts. And the sooner you can understand that these paragraphs are working parts identified here in color, you're going to better understand that paragraphs are easy to put together. I'm a very left-brained person. I'm a very this is your left. Left-brained thinker, and so I can understand essay writing as a formula of sorts. And so hopefully that might help you rethink what or how to approach an introduction paragraph. In tomorrow's lesson for cohort B, and in Friday's lesson for cohort A, I'm going to break down the body paragraph that applies to the wanderer for you in the same way, only you're going to have already done some of the work for the center part of that body paragraph, because you guys have filled in the work that you did Tuesday. You got your textual evidence, and you also, made your assessment of their mental states. Okay? You should have that document from Tuesday, as well as the introduction paragraph written in the document I started for you on the classroom assignment today, done. As a reminder, we have Unit 2 vocabulary that is due in the second part of this week. If you are Cohort A, your quiz will be on Thursday. Your exercises are due that day as well. Please pay attention to the various parts that are required. And Cohort B and R, you guys are going to be having your vocab quiz on Friday. Your exercises are due then as well. Reach out to me with questions or concerns. I did put out an invitation if you want to reach out to me via Google Meet today, Wednesday. You can send me a reminds and we'll pick a time. There's a block in which I'm not available, but I'll be available most times beyond that. Wednesdays are my grading days, so I'm going to be catching up on even more from the very end of week 2 into week 3, and we will hopefully have some updated grades so you can get a better sense of where you're at. Again, the grades are broken down by categories, weighted categories, so until we get a lot more tests and quizzes in there, until we get more writing and projects, it's going to be an uneven kind of breakdown of the grade. And so it will work itself out, though, as the marking period progresses. Okay, guys, have a great productive day, and I'll see you the next time I see you.